Hello, and welcome to your virtual workshop. My name is Jess, and I'm a career advisor with Mesa Community College, and I'm so excited to be sharing this information with you all today, virtually. I know that some of you are honor students here to fulfill a co-curricular. Some of you are students who are taking this workshop in place of a class session. Some of you may be community members who are genuinely interested in learning about different career opportunities, and I'm excited to share our resources with you. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Moving my screen out of the way, I brought us just straight to a Google site, so that way you can type in ONET, O-N-E-T, and it's usually always the first link to pop up, and when you select it, it takes you to their main page. So ONET is a wealth of information when it comes to different occupations. If you happen to find yourself not being too sure about what you want to pursue in your career, this is a great place to get started. You can start here in I want to be a, and you select it. And once you navigate there, you can say, what do you want to do for a living? And if you aren't really sure, you can say here, I'm not really sure. Or you can say, I know, and I'll know it when I'll see it. Or I want to be a. So if you know what you want to be, you're able to type directly in here what you want to do. If you are interested in browsing different areas, you can do that. Or if you really just aren't sure, you can type there or select that, and it takes you to the career assessment. In this career assessment, you can follow through and mark when you like, dislike, strongly dislike something, and it kind of narrows down for you different industries for you. So questions will be like, do you like to build kitchen cabinets, or do you like to manage a retail store? So it's just trying to get an idea of what kind of work environments would interest you. So for me, if I input my scores, which it's really good to kind of remember what your scores are, because it allows you to get an idea of what career path really is right for you. And it's nice to know if you take the test again in a couple years and something's completely changed. I know that the older that I've gotten, the more realistic and the more investigative I've gotten. Realistic and investigative basically meaning that I like to work with my hands, meaning like I like to work on things around my house. Investigative meaning I like to do a little more research now when it comes to making my decisions, and we'll go into all of that later. So let's say I'm 10 realistic, 15 investigative, 20 artistic, 28 social, 3 enterprising, 0 conventional. It gives me information about each of the different categories, and it tells me what each of the categories means. So like I said, with realistic typically means that you are a little more practical with your hands-on problems, and you like to find answers, so problem solving. Often people who are realistic do not like careers that involve a lot of paperwork, so probably wouldn't want to be in law or work in a printing company, and they typically don't like working really closely with others. So you'll find that realistic people will be working with plants and animals, real world materials like wood, tools, and machinery, outside work. So like I said, when I talked about how I found that I've become a little more realistic, it's just because when I'm working on things around my house, like DIY projects, I tend to appreciate it more. And then if we go into investigative, I always say that people who test really high in investigative probably Yelp a restaurant before going to it, just because that research part of them is really kicking in. I do find that a lot of people that test into something in the medical field do tend to be really high in investigative. Anything with the sciences investigative people usually are in. So they like to do research, and they like to figure out problems, or they like to find facts. All of that information is very useful to them, and they just thrive off of gaining that information and applying it to whatever work they're doing. And then we go into artistic. I always say that artistic isn't just into that box of being good at drawing. Artistic is more so of being creative and really thinking outside of the box and wanting to have the freedom to think outside of the box. So people with artistic interests, like work that deal with acting, music, art, design, architecture, engineering, creating things, being innovative. So artistic people typically like being really creative in their work, and they want to be able to work without a set of rules. This is how I knew that I personally wasn't really right for the medical field, because I knew that this artistic side of me, wanting to be creative in my everyday work, was going to be very important to me, whereas in the medical field, typically your daily job isn't to be very creative. Your main job is to follow procedures very, very strictly and get them right, because you're holding very sensitive information, tasks, procedures directly related to your patients. So there isn't a lot of room for creativity and risk. And then once we go into social, I know that I test highest in social, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm like talking to everyone, very popular. Social for me typically means that I have a goal of helping people. So people with social interests like working with others to help them learn and grow. They like working with people more than they do with objects, machine, or information. So I know that working from home isn't always the best for me, because I'm missing that human interaction. A lot of that spontaneity of being able to walk to different departments and really collaborate with them. So that social aspect is huge for me. Typically people who test high in social are great with teaching, giving advice, so they'll go into counseling, social work. They just like being of service to people, whatever that service looks like. So we can go into enterprising. I always say that these are my business-minded people or politicians. And it's not always that image of like a sleazy car salesman. People who have enterprising mindsets are great with startups, business projects. They like taking action rather than just thinking things out, which I have some enterprising qualities to me. I like really just going for things, and I don't typically think too much about things. So when it comes to persuading and leading people, I can if I myself really believe in the cause. So if I were tasked with a goal of selling 20 toasters to people, I probably wouldn't do very well, because I don't really like toast. I don't really eat too much of it. I don't really care about toast. So I would just be like, if you don't want it, don't buy it. But if I were tasked with persuading 20 people to volunteer with me to feed the hungry, I would probably be very good at that, because I feel very strongly about feeding people and really helping. So helping people come to the understanding of whatever level I'm at, and having them join me in a project or a cause would be something up more my alley. Enterprising people are great with making decisions, so they'll typically be a leader in a certain project, and they're better at taking risks for profits. Lastly, conventional, which I know I have zero interest in. People with conventional interests like work that follow set procedures and routines. I very rarely follow procedures and routines. I'm definitely one to just like, if someone asked me to color in a coloring book, I don't really have the patience to just color piece by piece. I'll probably be the one to color outside the lines. So I'm not very conventional in this sense, but I have major respect for people who are conventional. So people who are conventional can work in industries like human resources, accountants, Just being able to work with clear rules and following a strong leader. All right, so those are the different profiles that you could fit yourself into. You're never really just one profile. One usually tends to stick out above a few of the others. And I'm not saying that this test is 100% accurate and is going to tell you exactly about yourself, because it asks you like 60 questions. And it can't really understand every part of you and every factor that goes into you. But it gives you an idea of what you value in the workplace, and that's very valuable information to have when it comes to determining your career path. Because once you know what you value in a workplace, it's easier to determine if these certain industries will be able to fulfill those values. So for me, like, I know that I'm very artistic and I'm not very conventional. That's how I knew that I wasn't really right for the medical field. All right, so let's continue. So that is the interest profiler. Once you press next a bunch of times, it will ask you what job zone you want to put yourself into, or what job zone you want to consider for different career paths. Job zone meaning the amount of preparation needed before entering that job. So for me, I am interested in being in education for a long period of time. So maybe doctorates, maybe masters, bachelor's degree. So job zone 4 would be for me. You could go into a certificate, 2 years, associate's degree. You can go into a high school diploma, or you can just do little to no preparation, meaning like you could get hired now without any experience. So job zone 4 is what I will tend to look at, and I can press next. And it will show me different careers. So no surprise, career and technical education. One of the first things that pop up, I am currently a career advisor, and you can select it. And once I select it, it tells me about what career education teachers will do. So they teach occupational, career, and technical vocational subjects, so vocational. What types of skills will they typically have? So basic skills, listening to others, not interrupting, having empathetic listening, problem solving, having social abilities, having the desire to actually want to help people, the type of knowledge that I'll need, customer services experience that I should have, the type of personality that I want to have. So I want to be dependable, I want to have a level of integrity, pay attention to detail if I'm working with a lot of students, have leadership abilities, have a concern for others, adaptability, flexibility. These are the different types of technologies that you'll use. So technologies for me, meaning that I will use Microsoft or Google Docs, which is actually very true. I use those on a daily basis. So when you scroll down, the level of education, bachelor's degree, correct. Job outlook isn't looking great right now. So that's something you do want to consider when you are looking at different career paths, what their job outlooks are. I can tell you I'm doing great right now working in a college setting. And then you can scroll down and see that this information was updated in February. So it's all recent information. And then if you really want an idea of what they do, you can watch their video, which I won't make us watch today, but it is a good resource. So that's what you can do by exploring different careers. So there's kindergarten teaching, musical therapy, recreational therapist. I'm not saying that this information is 100% correct. If I go to Job Zone 5, which is practically where I want to take my career to, I have advanced practice psychiatric nurses, agricultural sciences, art therapy, counseling, which is a little more of what I would like to do, but it's not always true. Sometimes if I take this test, it'll tell me that I want to be a clergy or a pastor, which definitely really isn't me. So don't take this information as 100% accurate, but again, like I said, it does give you a good idea of what you value in a workplace, and it's no surprise that a lot of these workplaces involve helping people, which is my number one trait of being social. So that's the interest profiler. And if we go back just to ONET. A couple more things that I want to show you all. If I were interested in construction, or if I were interested in nursing, I would type in nursing, and then all these different occupations would come up of different types of nurses. So if I knew that I wanted to be a nurse, but I didn't know what kind of nurse I wanted to be, I could look at nurse anesthetists. And you could see typically what they will do on a daily basis. So they manage patients' airways, pulmonary status, using techniques such as endotracheal intubation, mechanical ventilation, and a lot of other big words. So you could look at different types of medical software that they're using. So it's no surprise they're using Anesthesia Manager, Centricity, EMRs, electronic medical records. So lots of different technology skills. And then when you scroll down, you can look at their knowledge, so what they're usually studying before they become a nurse. The skills that you should have when you are a nurse. So thinking of your different traits as who you are, if you have great critical thinking skills and you have active listening and active learning skills, those would be really useful to you in this field. Working activities, assisting and caring for others, a big one, making decisions and solving problems, documenting information, so having attention to detail in there. And then you scroll down, extensive preparation is needed, so education, most of these occupations require grad school. And once you scroll down, you'll typically have a master's degree. And then once you continue, these are the different attributes you would want to have if you want to be successful in this field. So when you take that test and you do match up with it, then you would most likely be a great fit. But I'm not saying that these are the only types of people that would be great nurses. This just gives you an idea. Scrolling down, you can look at other related occupations. So if you're like, this doesn't really sound like me, you can look at different areas. And then if you want to really continue, a lot of the meat of the information is around here, because this is how much they typically make annually, which usually goes into a lot of your decision making of what you want to do with your career. And then something really important too, that the projected growth of jobs in this field, like you'll always find in the medical field, are a lot higher than average. So it's just growing in terms of jobs. What I like to do is actually look at different openings and see what they're looking for in nurse anesthetists right now. So if I looked at the Mesa zip code, you can search that they're looking for a certified registered nurse anesthetist in Phoenix. You can select it, and you can see an overview of typically what they're asking for. They're looking for qualifications, so holds current, unencumbered AZ state license. They want you to be a graduate of the nurse anesthesia educational program. They would like you to be bilingual, so something to consider. And these are the things that they offer. So they offer competitive salary, 80 hours and 2-week pay period, all different things to consider when you're thinking about this as a potential career, because we know that careers make up such a huge part of your life. You're spending 8+ hours in that place a day typically, so you want it to be a place that really matches up to you and your goals. Alright, so that is what I have for ONET. The last thing that I want to show you that ONET is great for is if you're creating a resume and you are trying to write proper verbiage under your resume. So if you have worked in fast food and you were, let's say you were a server. If you are trying to write out the skills that you gained as a server under your experience section, a lot of the times the tasks that they put here are very useful for you in terms of really telling them everything that you did as a server. So you examine trays to ensure that they contained required items. You took food orders, you monitored food preparations, you recorded amounts of type of special food items served to customers. So these are different tasks that you completed. These are different skills and knowledges that you might have had when being a server, so those are things you might include. It's just very useful when it comes to creating a resume. That's about all I have to say about ONET right now, but like I said, it's very accessible to anybody who might need it. I know that ONET and Career Coach are very similar. I'll show you Career Coach really quickly. So I would go to mesacc.edu. In the search bar, I would type in Career Services and scroll down to Career Services right there. And then I would go to Career Coach right there. Scroll down, undecided about your career, select Career Coach, and you'll be taken to an interface like this, which is very similar to ONET. You can take the career assessment and the questions are exactly the same. You can browse the careers, all the information is the same, but the thing that is different is that the information is more localized. So the information is more set to you and being in Maricopa. If you are, you're able to browse careers and get statistics based off of Maricopa. So if you do nursing, you can look at nursing assistants, you can see their salary, you can see the employment, and the job post can be in your area. And then if you were looking at actually studying to be a nursing assistant, it'll show you it'll show you educational paths within Maricopa colleges. So it can show you tuition info, and it'll direct you to us at Mesa Community College. Alright, so that is Career Coach, and that is the end of the workshop. So if you have any questions for us today, definitely feel free to go to mesacc.edu/career, and you'll get our information, and we can definitely answer any questions that you may have. Alright, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for attending this virtual workshop.